In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? One way in which I used conventions of real media products was by using a female protagonist. Through her character profile, she clearly has no relationship or is involved with anyone, and so is not dependent on anyone. I wanted to show this through her housewarming party. She financially pulled herself through to achieve the house of her dreams. By owning her own catering company, she built herself up through the career ladder on her own. It corresponds to a more unconventional role of a woman who is a housewife, while the husband plays a breadwinner role, especially in horror films, where the heroine role is in need of a man to rescue her from the terrors or horrors she encounters. Similarly, I challenged the conventions through the neighbours' gender roles. The facial expressions of the husband was purposefully used as she's always seeking the approval of his dominant wife. Throughout the film opening, he only speaks twice, saying, "What a beautiful house," and "I think it's time we left," showing how far his wife has taken the conversation. For a couple of seconds after he says this, he glares at his wife for a long time, implying he needs her approval, showing she makes the final decisions. The dominance of Mrs. Blake is also highlighted through the mid-shot when they leave the house. He takes one step down when she asks, "So, do you think that worked?" We see a variation in height, as she clearly looks taller and therefore more dominant than him. We are left without an answer from him, which again shows how unconventional the male role assigned to him is. It mirrors the long glare in the scene where he talks at the table, which again reminds the audience members of how he's living under her dominance. Furthermore, when she says, "Do you think that worked?" suggests her plan for warning Erica was all her, showing her dominance. Mrs. Blake also shows a sense of drunkenness when she plays with her glass and blurts out creepy things. It's usually conventional for the male to be the drunk one, creeping out a young innocent girl, and is seen as villainous and reckless. However, gender roles are reversed, as I wanted to add an element of unexpectedness and shock to the audience members, so they feel a sense of tension building up to a climax. As well as this, I also developed conventions in areas such as a young female being the victim. Often women are presented as young and naive and powerless, or as hypersexual damsels in distress. Mark Sankovic says it's useful to make a distinction between beauty and the beast in a horror film, suggesting the beast is usually gruesome and frightening. I showed this through Erica to some degree, as it attracts audience members more, as they are psychologically feeling more frightened for a girl rather than a boy. Through my research into horror films, I found that before the 70s, a lot of horror films involved women tottering around half naked before screaming and being murdered by a male killer. After the 70s, the rise in feminism brought a final girl archetype, where gradually one girl is left as a victim. I wanted to take this further to create an all-female protagonist as survivors of the terrors they face. Therefore, although sticking to some conventions, the actions Erica made, such as putting her scarf off, implying she doesn't feel she needs to be shielded, and removing any sense of vulnerability she may have had. Another convention I stuck to was keeping her as a youthful character. We usually see young characters in not only horrors but most films nowadays, as it is attractive for audience members. For example, it's conventional that she threw a party, showing her young characteristics. Furthermore, it's also conventional as it involves escapism. For example, the glamorization of the house and turning away from social realist ideas such as poverty. Thrillers don't generally correspond with social realism, and so are stuck to this convention.